Welcome to the first meeting of the year for the Lents Neighborhood Livability Association. Second meeting this being February. I don't even know what month it is anymore. We've had West Rock cleanups this month on February 16th and the 21st. We're kind of we're up in the air about the one on the 16th because of the weather. If it's too wet, we're not going to be able to flow stuff. So we may postpone until Sunday.
I'll pick around that day.
Yeah, we'll take a look at what the weather forecast is tomorrow and then send a blast out, let you know for sure. And then Sunday we have the VFW breakfast at the American Legion at 9:30 a.m. and it's Eggs Benedict, right?
Yes, for $6.50.
$6.50.
That's the special. They're gonna have the regular food, it's just that's their special.
And then next month is going to be the 1-year anniversary meeting for Neighbor to Neighbor at 8 a.m. Got postponed because of the huge snowstorm that we had.
Devastating.
It was the biggest snowstorm ever. It was huge.
Is that the 9th?
Yes.
Yes, 9th of March. Yeah.
And the speakers have reconfirmed they're going to come.
Awesome. And then, sure, what was the story about the bookmarkers?
Oh, I have some of the bookmarkers I made up for the little libraries. And if you guys live or know of little libraries, they're over here on the table. You can take a few and stick them in the little libraries. Or I can pass them around here, so you guys can see what they look like.
Can we donate books to those?
Yes, of course you can, that's what they are. They're like a lending library.
All right.
So those are what I made up to,
Wow, those are nice, Sean.
yeah,
They're really nice.
advertisement, you know, advertising.
Nice job.
Okay, tonight we have 2 guest speakers. Our first speaker is going to be Brenda, was it? Joe's, from Unlimited Choices, which is a low-income program to help modify your home for mobility issues. And then following her will be Larry Melton from Director's Mortgage, and he's a reverse mortgage expert. He's going to educate us a little bit on ins and outs of reverse mortgages. So with that, go ahead, Brenda.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Speaking of that wild snowstorm, I grew up in upstate New York, I mean way up. My dad was the administrator for the St. Lawrence Seaway. We measured snow in feet. And we say we had 11 months of winter and 1 month of poor sledding. So this little skiff that we had here was not much.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. But we're not prepared for it.
I already have all of those at home, thank you.
You have this?
I've done business with Unlimited
Oh,
Choices.
okay.
She has everything.
Yeah, they were on speed dial.
Yeah.
Do your dad remember them keeping us home from school for snow?
Oh, no. Only thing that kept us out of school was ice.
On the Staten Island board.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, that's you.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
Give some back. Yeah, there you go. There you go. And then give you a couple more here. There you go. There's, you can hand him one too. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Good. Okay. So, I started the Unlimited Choices is the name of our nonprofit. And I started it in 1993 after I had 25 years of teaching mostly criminal kids, and I said I need to find something else to do now. And so this is, the ADA had just passed, Americans with Disabilities Act. And Portland was really good at transportation. Even back then, they had lift buses and some of that kind of stuff so that people could get around. But there was no way for people with disabilities to get out of their houses. I mean, they were stuck with, how do I take a bath? How do I take a shower when I've got a bathtub and I'm paralyzed from the waist down? And some of that kind of stuff. So they weren't even able to work. So trying to address the problem sat down with some people from Multnomah County and said, if I tried to do a program where we could modify homes for individuals, would you be willing to give it a try and fund us for a little bit? So they considered it for a while and said yes. So that was, I will give all due deference to them. They did a wonderful job. So we started out, and I think our first year we did maybe 15 homes, and right now we do about 300, 350 a year.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're busy. So what we do with the Adapt a Home program is we make home modifications. So it can be a ramp to get you in your front door. If you can't get through the front door, we can widen that. One of the things we do probably most often is we remove bathtubs because they are just a death trap. And when I moved into my new house, the first thing I did was got the bathtub out and just tiled the whole room. And I've got an overhead curtain, so I can age in place in that facility. And any of my friends who are wheelchair users can get in and out of my house. And yes.
Do they have any of those programs down south, like Albany, Oregon?
I think that you would have to call, let's see, Albany's in what county? Whatever.
Lynn County.
Lynn County. Just call Lynn County Community Development Office and find out if they have any programs like that down there. I'm not aware of them, but there could be. There have been. We got one of our first awards we got in Washington, D.C., and it was because of the kind of money we were using. We were the first ones that did it for accessibility. So since then, lots of people have called us, and there are other programs around. So we're really thankful for that. We do the bathtubs out, and we put in roll-in or step-in showers. And what we're finding is that younger people really prefer showers. They don't really want to take a tub bath. So that when they have a choice of an apartment and one is accessible and one has a bathtub, they'll choose the one with the shower. So yeah. So I think that it's a nice yes.
My stepmom's in a memory care facility,
Yes.
and I can't bring her to my home because I don't have a way for her to get into my house.
Oh, okay.
Do they do anything like that?
And usually we have to do it at a house where the person lives.
Yeah.
But there are places that will rent ramps. They're metal. Yeah, they're portable ramps, and you can rent them.
Oh,
How many steps do you have up?
going in the front door, 4.
How many? Do you have one that has less steps than that? A back door or something?
3.
Sometimes people will donate them after someone dies and stuff. I don't know if I have one that would be adequate for that, but is she a wheelchair user full time?
Yes. Okay. I just can't bring her to my home. It's just too large for me to try and
Yeah.
get her out of her chair, get her up, so.
That's hard. That's
Okay.
hard. Yeah. But give me a call and we'll see if I can help you out with that a little bit. Let me talk after I leave here. So we do the wheelchair ramps and we remove a lot of bathtubs. We also do a lot of handrails. And one of the things we always do is we do lots of grab bars because the first fall is the one that's going to injure you. I mean, if you break a hip, sometimes that puts you down, and sometimes that's the end of it because you lay down and you get pneumonia, and sometimes you don't survive that. So preventing that first fall is what we're trying to do. So getting grab bars in the right place, especially in the bathroom, but anywhere else where you're going to change elevation. So any place where you have a stair, have something to grab onto as you go down. Put in a lot of handrails, widen doorways, and we put in a lot of raised toilets too. Those are really way more comfortable. We have them in the office, I have them at home, and when I go into someone's house and they have the regular size, it's like, oh my God, this is so low.
How do you do this?
And how do you get back up again?
Squatty potties ought to be illegal.
See, I agree with that. I
had an ADA put into my house when I bought it.
Yeah, absolutely. They're way more comfortable.
Right.
That's right. And if I had little kids, I just do that. My
I have a
grandniece and nephew.
I have a little stool.
Yes.
I have a little stool that goes to the bathroom for me.
I agree. The other program we have is called Mendo. And what we do is critical home repair for homeowners. So we can do we can replace roofs, depending on income qualifications, but we can, if the roof is leaking, we don't do it as just a general upgrade to your property, but if it's actively leaking, we can repair or replace it. We do a lot of furnace replacements, water heaters, let's see, it says on here. So repair damaged floors, exterior porch and stairs, that kind of stuff. So those are the programs that we have, and down here it says the income qualifications, the household size, and what the income levels are. So if any of those things apply to you or to any of the people that you're out there helping, please feel free to give them the information, have them give us a call.
You're one of the few organizations that'll work on mobile.
Oh, yeah, we absolutely work on mobile.
We've communicated. I've had quite a bit of work done on my brother's mobile home when he moved in because he's disabled. Fantastic program.
Good. Yes, because we want people in affordable housing, and a mobile manufactured home is absolutely affordable housing. So anyway, please do get, yes, sir.
Out of curiosity, where does the income threshold come from?
HUD.
Okay.
But we get our funding through HUD. And so we have to use their income guidelines, and you have to count every person in the home. You can't say, oh, it's just for my mother. No. HUD guidelines say every person who lives in the house, their income has to be included in what they do. So we have to follow their guidelines if we take their money.
That was kind of my follow-up, is there other like variables I'm not mentioned on the sheet, like that we take into account, or do you take into account if there's other extenuating circumstances with the finances where like, oh, we can work around some?
What you need to do is call, especially if people are on Social Security or some of that kind of stuff, if they're seniors, and so they just need to give us a call, and someone will walk them through the whole process, and sometimes you think you're over income, but you might not be.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
yes.
Are you a 501c3?
C3.
Okay, I've been working with Fort Kennedy, which is a day center for homeless veterans.
Mhm.
My part, what I'm most interested in is getting help for their pets so that they are not left out. And I just picked up a huge donation of flea control today that a company donated. I mean, like $2,500 worth.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
But
awesome.
I
Good for
did
you.
come across a lady who has an extra large wheelchair she would like to donate to somebody.
Okay,
Is that something you could use?
sure, we would take it.
Okay. I
Because
will
what we
give
do
her
is we
this phone
try,
number.
yes.
Okay.
So if they come in, what we try to do is get them out as quickly as we can. And we do find people who need the larger room.
Okay, good.
Sir,
Where does your funding come from again?
it comes from HUD, the Housing Urban Development's federal money.
Okay. Do you get any private funding?
We get some donations, and we get some private money. And then the city of Portland has a different pots of money, and some of it is, it's TIF, it's tax increment funding for different neighborhoods, and actually Lents is one of the TIF areas, so.
Any development with the foundations in the community?
We've got, one of our board members is now working with the Child's Foundation and Providence Foundation, because Providence just is always calling us with referrals. So, yeah. We just are so busy doing what we do that it's hard to sit down and say, okay, now I'm going to sit down and write this foundation grant, so, sir.
This says that it's for the Lents urban renewal areas, to cover other areas in the city as well.
Yeah, we're in the city of Portland, and the city of Gresham, and in the city of Beaverton, and all throughout Multnomah County, all the unincorporated areas.
Okay.
We used to be much larger, but everyone is moving to Portland. I mean, it's gotten so populous here that we've just decided to settle in and just do this.
This is totally separate from the city of Portland
We're
program.
Yeah, we're a nonprofit organization. They fund us quite generously, but they fund us, so, to do this work.
And is your work done by professionals, volunteers?
No, but by licensed and bonded building contractors. So what we do is we have housing rehab specialists, and they go out and they detail the job, exactly what we're gonna do. And draw sketches of exactly where we want things. We define what the materials are gonna be. We order a lot of the stuff like the handheld shower heads and stuff because we want quality control on those. But it's all done by licensed contractors, so all the work is guaranteed for a year, always.
Oh, okay, so it can all be inspected and.
Yes, if necessary. Not everything needs an inspection.
Right, but
Yeah.
things like ramps and stuff like that, those have to be inspected.
Not, they're not, only if they're over 30 inches above ground.
Oh.
One of the ladies we're helping neighbor to neighbor, fairly new, she fell in her bathtub, was stuck in there for 6 hours. She just got back from the ER.
Nightmare.
Didn't have her necklace on to push, so she fell. Luckily, somebody knocked her 6 hours later. And it's still not changed, but she doesn't take baths, but she was in, I think, used the bathroom when she fell in the toilet, so.
Have her call us, would you please?
Well, we're gonna advocate for her.
Yes.
So what my recommendation would be, would you send somebody in to look at her bathroom and say how we can make it safer for her? Because she's not gonna use, I don't think, the bathtub. I think she has social workers come in and help her that way.
Okay.
But her flooring's horrible, it's a tripping hazard. If you were to see it, it's like her carpet needs to be ripped out and put something down that's safer. You have people that come in and walk through the property that say, here's how we can help make it safer.
The housing rehab specialists are the ones that go out. And what we do is we have a funding limits for different areas, how much money we can spend at any one time. So we have to go through and prioritize what are the most important. In her case, I would say most of the money would go to be remodeling the bathroom.
Yeah.
And that would be to get the tub out and put in probably either a step-in or a roll-in shower, either way.
And the step-in is only like this.
Yeah.
It's enough to keep the water.
Yeah, it's enough to keep you from having to have a drain in the middle of the bathroom floor. But she's probably got aides coming in from Multnomah County Agency of Social Services. They would appreciate her being able to get into the shower.
Yes.
Because with a handheld, she could actually get clean.
Yeah.
And we give them a shower chair to put in there too, so they can sit
Oh,
down.
yeah.
And a handheld as well as a fixed, so that if you are using the bench,
Okay.
you have, it's fantastic. It took less than 2 weeks to get my brother's done, and that's because they had to order a special pan for it.
Yeah, we've only got 3 months relationship with her. Just heard this story last time we did our neighbor to neighbor, and it was horrifying.
Yeah, it is, it's terrible. I mean, it really is, they just are little death traps in your bathroom. It's just, they're horrible, yeah.
And she just was saying the pain she was in.
Yeah.
Couldn't move.
Yeah, and then she's getting colder and colder and
She
colder.
does.
Because you're in that porcelain tub, which is just sucking all the heat out of you.
And her heater doesn't work, so
Oh,
she's got
oh,
those
jeez.
little plug-in.
Ooh.
So I mean, everything's working. So I will be calling.
I can't even begin to tell you how often I've seen that.
Yeah.
And we assume that you're going to communicate with an advocate.
We just go in and do this.
Okay.
People just call us up.
Yeah.
We don't work through advocates. I mean, we go and do this for people.
Yeah, she has a team that.
Okay, and that's fine.
Yeah, our
That's
neighbor to neighbor
perfectly
team,
fine.
and I can work with
Oh,
Sharon and
absolutely.
Multnomah Health
Yeah.
Services as
Oh,
well.
and if case managers want to be there while we're there, that's fine.
Cool.
But
Okay.
we've, like I say, I've started this, I'm finishing our 26th year, so I think we've done over 6,000 projects.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Do you hire outside contractors, or do you just use the people within your facility?
No, we use independently licensed and bonded contractors. So what we do is, when we get done, we write this up, we know exactly what we want to do, it's very precise, and we send it out to contractors that are working with us, and we get at least 3 competitive bids on the same stuff. And they can stay at, we write it up so well, they don't even have to go look at the property. We tell them if there's a soft spot in the floor, we show them exactly where it is and how big it is and what the flooring is. And so they trust us enough that they will just bid on that. But we're always looking for new blood. I mean, if there are contractors they've got to be good with difficult people sometimes. They've got to be good with seniors. They've got to be compassionate. They've got to, they can't go in and say, well, what do you care? You're getting it for free. I mean, that you're not going to be working with us anymore. Yeah, that's fine. And it's good if they have skills. And so what we find a lot of times is people who have been a contractor for a long career, as they're getting ready to retire, they want to do littler jobs. And what we're doing is what they would consider a littler job. So we get some really good people who have years' worth of experience, and that's a blessing.
My question was, my other question is, can we call you to get a reputable contractor on our own?
No.
I mean, you can't refer a contractor?
No, we got burned with that.
Really?
We referred a contractor and someone got really upset with them and then came after us, so
Oh,
we
I see.
don't refer contractors.
Makes sense.
So, I've got some business cards here, I'll leave them on the table if anybody wants to get a hold of me personally, but, do you need any more of these flyers, or you got
I think
enough?
we're good with the
Okay,
flyers,
all right, good.
I can scan it and put it on our pages.
Perfect, that sounds
Yeah.
perfect. Okay, thank you very much, and thanks for being
Thank you.
advocates for all these people. I mean, it's really heartening to see, people helping each other. It's what we're supposed to do, is be in this game together and help each other. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And good luck with this vicious
I
group
know.
here. I know, it just-
Leave me alone.
Good night.
Is this your Jack Spear red?
Yes,
Figure it out.
So can everybody see that picture? Yeah. This is nighttime. See that picture right there? Yeah.
It's serious.
Okay. Is everybody ready?
Set.
Here we go.
All right.
My name's Larry Melton. I'm with Directors Mortgage, and I manage specifically and only our reverse mortgage department. So that's all I do. It's all I've done for the last 8 years of my 20-year mortgage career. And just to give you a little kind of plan here, I was told I had an hour. Is that too much? Not enough? How do you guys feel about that? That's a lot. Well, and we probably won't take that much, depending on how many questions. And I can stick around afterwards if anybody's got some really specific questions. Second thing is, I hate PowerPoint presentations, hate sitting through them, and yet here I am with one. So I just kind of do this to kind of keep us on track a little bit, keep it moving. If you guys have questions, please just ask. Neola has become a client and a friend, and I think she can vouch for the fact that I'm pretty low key, so we'll try to keep it light. All right. First question, who in here has at least heard the term reverse mortgage? Pretty much everybody? Who in here thinks that's the worst thing you could ever do financially? Okay, good. You guys are the ones I want to talk to. Perfect. Just ripping off old people, that's what people tell me. Here's what I promise you, you may still not like this as a program, but I promise you, you will think differently about it when I'm done. If not, I give everybody that doesn't believe that $100.
I felt that way, and my stepmom, who has dementia, went and got a reverse mortgage, and I thought, oh my God, this is the worst thing. It was the best experience, because my dad passed. We were able to use that money to support her in California, so my sister here.
Yeah.
It was an easy payoff when I sold my dad's house. and
Yeah.
I had a totally different appreciation for it.
Okay, thank you, because I'm telling you guys, and
She
I,
doesn't get $100.
no, she gets 1,000. Anybody else?
I was so upset when I found out what she had done. But
Well, and I see that all the time. People think certain things about this program and how it works, and most of the time it's just misinformation or inaccurate. Now, I will say this, it's not for everybody.
Right.
It's like any financial product. It's not, doesn't fit everybody's situation. But when it does fit, there is nothing on the market that can do what this can do. No financial services, insurance, mortgage, investment product can do what this allows people to do. Okay, real quick, just going to go through this. Here's the official definition. And HECM, home equity conversion mortgage, is what you'll hear. That's the official name for reverse mortgage. Federally insured loan program for people 62 and over to borrow a portion of the equity in their house without the requirement of making a monthly payment. Sharma, I can separate you guys.
No, it's fine. I'm wondering where my phone went. See this little.
That's that guy next to you there. I saw him take it from him.
I didn't take it far.
Children.
Okay, a little bit of history, timeline stuff, you guys. The first reverse mortgage was created and used in 1961, and it was just a little one-off. So the idea of this product has been around for,
Might have to separate it from everybody.
this has been around for over 50 years. But at the time it was invented, it was just a one-off deal that this little savings and loan did for one of their clients. After that, in 1988, it became a pilot program that was rolled out to about 50 lenders around the country that got to use it and kind of test it. And then in 1998 is when it was introduced more broadly, and any lender that wanted to could really offer it as long as they got approved through HUD. So here's one thing I bring up. So 98 was 20 years ago, right? So this loan program as a product and as a mortgage is really a baby. It's only 20 years old. So a lot of the stories that you've heard about how it was maybe misunderstood or not used correctly or was a bad experience for somebody was, 10 years after this, when people started to get into a position where the borrowers are passing away, they're having to sell the homes or whatever. And so there's been a lot of changes as well over the last 5, 6, 7 years. Because the loan is really, really new. One of the big changes was what we call financial assessment. In 2015, now the qualifying for this loan looks a lot different, and it creates a lot more safer experience for the client. Okay? That's just some quick history. Here's one thing to keep in mind as we're talking about this and why you'd use it, how you'd use it. This is sort of this whole presentation I made up, so it's not very sophisticated. This is my idea of all of our money. We all have our monthly income, the money we get in our check or whatever. Then we hopefully have a little checking and savings. That's what I call our ATM money. The money, if you just need it, you just run down and get a little bit. And then we've got some investments, 401k, retirement funds. Those, if we need them, we can get to them maybe, but they're not as liquid. And they might cost us money to get to. There might be taxes, there might be penalties depending on how we withdraw that money. And then down at the end, we've got real estate, whatever that might be. If you own a home, if you own investment property, and that's not liquid at all. Can't get money out of your house very easily. So what this program does is it just moves a portion of this money down into this area. We just try to make some of your real estate dollars a little more liquid. Okay, so just keep that in mind as we're continuing to work through here. I loved what I'm going to call Brenda, because I love what she was talking about in terms of what she does, because we do some of the same things, kind of, or we help people fund some of those kinds of things. Why do people use a reverse mortgage? So again, keep this in mind. You get money through a reverse mortgage just through a home loan. But it's a home loan that doesn't require a monthly payment every month, so it doesn't create a cash flow situation on the other side, okay? You can go out and refinance your house and get cash out. You can go get a home equity line of credit, but then you're creating a monthly payment for yourself, and this loan does not do that. So people get money out just because they need some cash. Maybe they just don't have enough every month to pay their bills. Maybe they've got an event that happened and maybe they need a new roof. Maybe they've had a health event. Maybe their car needs some repairs. So just they can use it for whatever they want. One of the things we do is we will replace a traditional mortgage with the reverse mortgage and get people out of that monthly payment. So think about this. If you, and I've got some examples later, think about a couple in their mid-40s, and they're both working, make plenty of money, but now they've got kids in college or they're paying for a wedding, so they go out and maybe they refinance their house, take some cash out, and maybe that payment is $1,500, right? Two incomes, $1,500, no problem. Fast forward 20 years. Now they're in their 60s, mid-60s, maybe approaching 70. Maybe that mortgage now has been paid down quite a bit, but the payment is always the same, right? So what if you've got two people now that have retired? What if you've got two people retired and then one of them passed away? You might have gone from a dual income couple to $80,000 a year. You might be down to one Social Security check of $1,500 a month. Well, if your mortgage payment is $1,500, and all you're making is $1,500 to $2,000, even though you might only owe $20,000 or $30,000 on that mortgage, that payment can be really devastating income-wise, right?
That's exactly what happened in my dad and mom's case.
And this is a huge part of what we do. Huge part of what we do. Almost every loan we do pays off some amount of an existing mortgage. Okay, moving on. Myths. This is my favorite. 1, the bank will own my home. Anybody think of that one? Anybody think that you're selling your house to the bank for 50 cents on the dollar? They're going to give you a little bit of money, but then they get your house when you die. No, that is not the case. And the funny thing is, that has never been the case. And yet this is the one thing that I hear more than anything when people are afraid of this loan. And I tell people that is absolutely not true. It is no different than any mortgage that any of us have. It's just a lien against the property, but the borrower still owns the property. They can sell the house and take the equity. They can refinance that loan. They can pay the loan off, but they don't lose any ownership or any future value in that house. The bank does not take ownership of the property. Okay? I won't be able to sell. You can absolutely sell, and I've had clients do that. I did a reverse mortgage for some clients a couple years ago. They decided to move up to Washington. They sold their house here that had the reverse mortgage on it, and we used a reverse mortgage to buy the new house up in Washington. So you don't lose, again, you don't lose any control over the property. You can do whatever you want with it. Just as, anybody in here have a regular mortgage? Yeah, me too. If you wanted to sell your house, you just sell it, pay off the loan, take what's left, and go do what you want with it, right?
What's the interest rate?
Right now, they're about 5%.
That accrues on all the money that you get, well, say I were to get a reverse mortgage and I die, my son and my daughter would have to pay interest from the time I took the loan on all the money.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And that's a good point, because, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Reverse mortgages are expensive to obtain. That used to be more of a myth than it is now. FHA raised one of their fees. So I will tell you, these aren't super cheap to get. We can mitigate a lot of the costs in getting one. But I will tell you this, for most of my clients, the cost has never dissuaded them from doing it, because we're looking at other goals. We're looking at doing other things for them to put them in a better financial position. So could you run down to your bank and get a line of credit cheaper than you can get this? Yeah, you can. Is this worth it in terms of the expense? That's for everybody to decide. They're not so expensive that you wouldn't get it, but they're not free either. So just, being honest. My kids won't get anything. I hear that one a lot, and I jokingly say, let the kids get their own. But A lot of people worry that if you take out a mortgage and then you don't make payments against it and it's still accruing interest, of course that loan balance every month is going to be a little higher than it was the month before. And 10, 15 years down the road, you borrowed 100 and now you owe 175 or whatever the number is, right? The home hopefully is also appreciated in value, but you've also traded a little bit of financial freedom, because what are the alternatives? What are the other options that you've got? And I say this, if you have a modest home mortgage payment of $800 a month, and that's, we'll just call it $10,000 a year, and you're gonna live in that house another 10 years, that's $100,000 we can put back into your spendable budget. And that's a big number for people. So again, yeah, the trade-off is you're not servicing that debt every single month like you normally would. You're gonna pay the interest one way or the other.
But what if you took a reverse mortgage and the monthly amount that you get, you can take that interest. You can take that interest. So we're actually paying the interest on that.
You lost me on that one.
So what if I get a reverse mortgage and you
Okay.
send me $500 a month?
Okay.
Can't you charge me the interest taken out of that $500 a month to service that loan?
You can make payments on a reverse mortgage if you want. So, and I do have clients that do that. If you don't want the mortgage balance just to keep kind of inching up every month, you can make payments if you want to and it fits in your budget.
That's exactly what I did. I paid the interest.
Yeah, I have clients that do that.
Because I knew within a year or so I was
Yeah.
going to be selling the home, so
Here's
I
the-
chose to do that.
Yeah, and so you can manage that debt however you want. You can make payments if you want. You can make one payment a month, one a year, one a quarter, never. It doesn't matter. But if you're getting $500 a month, and you're right, that's going to accrue interest over time. If at some point you're like, this loan balance is getting a little high, you can make payments against it if you want to.
Just to pay the interest?
Mhm.
So that would say you borrowed so much money and when you die, your kids just have to sell the house and pay back what you borrowed.
Correct.
Minus the interest. I mean, they wouldn't have to be responsible for the interest.
They're just going to pay whatever that balance is at the time. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Keep moving here. I can't, because I have a mortgage. We kind of covered that one. Most of what we do is replace regular mortgages. Borrower eligibility, pretty simple. You have to be at least 62 years old, and if it's a couple, only one has to be, but that's the starting point. We can only do the loan on your primary residence. You can have a second home or investment properties, but we can only do this loan on your primary residence. There are some minimum income, credit, and asset requirements, so we do look for income, and it's basically enough income to know that you can pay your property taxes, your homeowner's insurance, a little bit of money left over for other expenses. And then any other debt that you might have, we have to account for a little bit. Yeah.
I have my primary residence, and then I built an apartment, an ADU out of my double car garage. So how would that work?
Where's your house? Is it in Multnomah County? There's so many of those in Multnomah County now that it's okay, because they have found that it's sort of normal, and so it's not unusual anymore. We have to go through a couple extra hoops just to make sure, but it doesn't disqualify you from doing it.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, yeah, sure.
If within the city where the ADUs are becoming
Yeah.
popular and mandatory, can something like this be used if you own your home to add the AUD and then
Yeah, so you can use the money for anything. So, yeah.
and use the money from the AUD to pay back?
Yeah, you could, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so one story. This is one of my favorite uses of this product. I had this couple. They lived in West Lynn. They owned a beautiful home in West Lynn that was paid for, worth about $600,000. They also owned a piece of bare property at the beach, and they wanted to build at the beach. And so they borrowed money from their home here and kind of created their own construction loan. So they poured the foundation, drew $10,000, whatever it was, paid the contractor for the foundation. Every step along the way, they just pulled money out of their line of credit on their reverse mortgage here and built the house down there. And then the net result when they were done was they had their house here, they had their house at the beach, and still no mortgage payment. And that house was paid for free and clear. So, I mean, for them, it was a phenomenal way to use this product. Okay, moving on. After you get the loan, what are your requirements? The only thing you have to do to stay out of default with this product is pay your property taxes, keep the home insured, and just maintain the home in generally decent condition. And that's the same with any mortgage, by the way. Even a regular mortgage, if your home isn't maintained, the lender can still come in.
Don't you have to continue living in the home?
And it always has to be your primary residence, yeah. The rules say that it has to be, if you have a home, down in the sunshine somewhere, and you spend half the year down there and half the year up here, that's fine. This can still be your primary residence. If you tend to start spending more time down there, technically, they could call the loan due.
I have a question. My house is 111 years old, and so not everything has been updated. So in order to get a mortgage, like reverse mortgage, would I have to like finish updating like my plumbing and things like that?
No, not necessarily. FHA really only requires improvements or changes when it's a health or safety issue. So for example, electrical can be an issue if it's really old and you still have old fuses.
No, I don't. I mean, I've had electrical work done and everything's already passed back.
Yeah.
But some of the wiring is still
the old.
through the glass, yeah.
I haven't run into anything like that.
Because I don't know if I'd have to rewire my house to bring all 100% up to code.
Not in my experience, you wouldn't have to. It's not something like that.
No. Yeah, what about plumbing? Because I had an insurance person come out to see if they would insure my home, which you can't find many that will when your house is over 100 years old.
Yeah.
And she says, well, if you scrape and primer and paint your house, and if you change all your plumbing to copper, I says, if I could do that, I wouldn't have you trying to help me save money.
Yeah. Well, we can talk more, and I can do some investigating if you want.
I found somebody to insure for $400, over $400 cheaper than I was paying, so I'm sitting right there.
Okay. What does it cost? I say cost is similar to a regular mortgage. I mean, you go buy a house. FHA on this product does charge a mortgage insurance fee to add some of the cost, but other than that, it's standard stuff.
Excuse me, why do they charge mortgage insurance? That was the only thing I didn't like about.
Here's why, because this is a non-recourse loan to protect the borrower and the estate. So if someone holds on to this loan long enough and the interest just continues to accrue, obviously that loan balance is going to keep getting higher. If there ever becomes a situation, and this happened a lot back in 2008, where the home value was less than what they owed on the house. If someone passed away and the family went to sell the house at that time and it was upside down by 50 grand, the family, the estate is not responsible for that. FHA steps in and makes up that difference, and that's what they charge the mortgage insurance for.
But even in my father's case, his house was worth over $1 million, and her reverse mortgage was like $300,000, and they still charged.
They still charge it, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was crazy. That's a big
Well,
chunk.
and I don't disagree with you that it's.
That's a big chunk of money.
Yeah, it is. I don't disagree with you, but I also tell people this: if FHA didn't insure these, the program may not even be available.
Right, I understand that.
And secondly, if it was available, they would lend you, 20% of your house's value,
And
not
what's the
40
rate?
or 50.
What's the rate on
The FHA is 2% of the home's value, up to a cap though. So $1 million house, it wouldn't be $20,000. Okay. FYI, you guys, I really like what I do. So I will stay here for 3 hours and answer questions. I really will. I really will.
You might, but the rest of us
It'll
aren't.
be dark, I'll be by myself, but, so I really don't mind the questions, but I also don't want to keep everybody else too long. So I'm gonna just kind of plow ahead. Mortgage insurance, now, I will tell you this, there's some private products now that are not FHA, that do not have the mortgage insurance. Those are good for homes that are $1 million, is when that starts to kind of pencil out. So, topic for another day, but There's some fees we can't charge that would get charged on a regular loan, underwriting and processing, that's about $1,000 that we're not allowed to charge. I don't know why, but we can. The process is a little bit different in the beginning than a traditional mortgage. One of the things that's required, we meet with the client, give them a proposal or a quote, talk about the numbers and what, you know, how we can structure this deal. If the client then wants to proceed, they have to do a HUD counseling session, which is about an hour telephone conversation with a HUD-approved counselor. That is two reasons for that, generally. One, it gives the client someone that is not financially tied to the transaction in any way, a chance to ask questions of someone else. The counselor is required to assess understanding and competency. This loan falls under senior law, so it's a protected class. So there's a lot of rules around it, and this is just one step to keep everybody kind of above board.
Is that something new?
No,
No?
it's not.
Does that still cost $100?
150.
150 now, okay.
Yeah. Then we take the application, then we start doing kind of the normal stuff. Appraisal, title, escrow, underwriting.
And what's the maximum amount of money they'll lend now?
Well, depending on your age, the max is about 72 or 73% of your home's value. There's some other rules to that. It starts way down at about 41% for a 62-year-old, and then it goes up a little bit each year. Anybody want to guess why they do that? Because none of us are getting out of here a lot, and that's just and they know it. If this is, I say 45 days, we can do it in 30 days if everything just kind of clicks along pretty smooth. But it's, you know, that's from when we kind of get this piece done. I've had clients that I've met with that wait, you know, I had one client that, well, it's funny, I'm working with a client right now. They called me well over a year ago, and they just did their counseling last week. So, really just depends on the client. I don't know why the picture didn't show up. I didn't put a question mark in there. The initial meeting is really just to understand what are we trying to get accomplished here? What are your goals? This is a financial product, much more than it really is a mortgage, in the sense that all of my clients are either retiring or in retirement, trying to figure out how to stretch out an investment portfolio. People are outliving their money, so this is a way to help figure that out, stretch it out. And that's what that first meeting is really all about. Then the counseling, which we kind of already talked about. It's about an hour on the phone. They literally issue a certificate that I have to have before I can do the application. It's numbered, it's all tracked. So anyway, that's a must-do kind of a deal. It's about 100 to 150. I think most places are charging about 150 now. The application. Has anybody done a regular home loan anytime recently? No? Okay, so here's how that would go.
The reverse mortgage is about 16 inches.
God, it's ridiculous.
So it's a mortgage.
Oh.
But not at the beginning, Penny.
No,
Here's the
not-
difference.
no.
So let's say, I'm going to pick on Stuart only because I can remember his name. So let's say Stuart, let's say I'm a regular loan officer, and Stuart is going to get a mortgage, and he calls me, Larry, hey, I got referred to you by such and such a realtor, said you should do a good job. Yeah, what do I do? And I'm going to tell Stuart, in today's world, in the regular mortgage world, I'm going to say, Stuart, no problem, jump on my website, fill out some information, it'll take you 15 minutes, that'll send to me electronically, and then we'll, right? I mean, that's what happens. You get on the internet at midnight, your underwear, and that's how you apply for a loan. In our world,
It's crazy.
it is not the same.
No, when I got that paperwork, 'cause I couldn't find it because.
When I print out an application package, you guys, no joke, between what I have to have signed and take back and what I'm required to leave with the client, it's over 300 pieces of paper.
They sent it to me in a box.
It's
They
ridiculous.
sent it to me in a box.
So,
Yeah.
right, Jocelyn?
Yes, but you made it very easy. I
Well,
had any questions, so.
Yeah, we get through it. It's just different. So we take a lot of time to sit with the client, go through, they have to sign like 35 things. But I tell everybody this is just kind of the big permission slip for me to really go to work. So the application process is different. again, it's just kind of my permission slip to do things like order appraisal, open title, order a credit report, standard stuff. Okay, here we go. And then after that, it's just kind of the standard loan gets funded like a normal loan through an escrow company, pay off liens. You could, take cash at closing if you want. Different ways to get money through this program. So in the olden days, like 10 years ago, if you had a $400,000 house, you might qualify for 60% of that. Probably a little more, but 60 is easier math for me. So that's $240,000, right? So again, Stuart calls me for a loan, house is worth 400. Yeah, you want, and Stuart just says, I'll just give you the lump sum. And I literally at closing, Stuart gets $240,000 cash. And that has created some issues because most people didn't need $240,000. Stuart runs off to Vegas, whatever, puts it all in red, calls me the next week and says, I need another $240. I'm out.
But then he starts paying interest on that 240.
Yeah, exactly. So most people don't do this lump sum option anymore. It just doesn't make sense for most people. Now, you can also make monthly payments. Like you mentioned, we can set it up so you just get a regular draw every month of some amount of money. Or you can just do a line of credit. And this by far is what we're doing the most of right now because it gives the clients the most flexibility. You can take the money out, you can repay it, you can take as much as you want, when you want. You never have to take any if you don't want. So for a lot of people, if we pay off a little mortgage, let's say someone still has sort of this leftover mortgage of 30 grand, but they qualify for say 150,000 total. Well, we're not going to give them $120,000. We're going to pay off their $30,000 mortgage, and then we're going to put the other 120 in just a line of credit. And what does that mean? It's really just still equity in their house. They just haven't used it yet, but they're also not paying interest on it. And most people don't know this, that $130,000 that's left over, whatever's left in that line of credit and unused grows at about 5% a year. So people that just let it sit there, and it grows regardless of the value of the house. So even if the market goes down, that growth is still going to go up. So that extra bucket of money that we've created is now actually growing over time as well. And most people in retirement aren't getting 5% on their CDs at the bank, right? My mother just told me that.
So even if you're on Social Security and don't file taxes, because you don't have to.
Right.
But do you have to pay taxes on that interest?
No, you do not. Because it's not like a dividend that you're receiving. It's just an increase in that line of credit that you have access to. And even as you take that money, you don't claim that as income because it's not income, it's borrowed funds. So the IRS does not see it as income. So that 240 that I gave Stuart, that he blew in Vegas, IRS doesn't care. Okay?
Stuart cares.
No.
It's not income as far as Social Security is concerned?
No, it's not. Here's the one thing you don't want to do. What you don't want to do, there are certain services and benefits that people get because they don't have any money, right? Some health benefits and those kinds of things. So the one thing you don't want to do is all of a sudden take 50 grand and stick it in the bank. Because now some of those places say, well, you got $50,000 sitting there, you don't need assistance from us anymore. So I tell my clients if they need money every month, just take it every month.
So if you take it, Social Security cannot count that as income if it's borrowed money.
Or Medicare?
But
Or Medicare.
if you decide to pay some interest, you could, and your income is low enough, like myself, my income is low enough, widows don't give much, that I had a caseworker call me and say, you need to sign a paper because you qualify for us to pay, for the government to pay your Medicare.
Yeah,
So-
this doesn't affect that.
Not even if you pay interest, they don't, I mean, they don't consider that an expense if you pay interest.
No. And if they did, I'd say, don't pay it. Just let your kids pay it later someday when you leave.
Yeah, they make 10 times as much as me.
Well, okay, some quick examples, you guys. I have like 3 examples and I'm done, other than answering questions. These are real, true examples of clients. Names have changed. No, that's not my clients over there. That's just some picture. But here's some ways. This is just to give you some ideas of how to use this product. Bill and Jean, 74 and 70, own their home outright for $350. They're on fixed income, $2,200 a month. And that's not unusual, you guys. Social Security, especially for people who might have been self-employed and didn't put money away the same, not hard to find people that have modest incomes like that. But here's what they wanted to do. They wanted to help their grandson pay for college, and they wanted to travel, right? Now, I will tell you that I have a daughter in college. This will not pay for it, in case anyone's wondering. Yeah, my daughter's in Switzerland right now. Ooh, $11 hamburgers. So, here's what we did for Bill and Jean. We just did refi with cash out. So all we did, and Jean's age is used because if it's a couple, we always use the younger of the 2 on the calculation to see how much they qualify for, right? Again, it's just actuarial driven. What's that?
Because they're gonna live longer?
Yeah, that's right.
Statistically?
Yeah. So we did a line of credit. They qualified for $154,000 total. That was their total borrowing power. There's a rule that says you can only get 60% of that in the first year unless we're paying off a mortgage or something that's more than that. So they could get, because their house was paid for, they could have up to $92,400 in the first 12 months. Now they could take every penny of that right at closing if they wanted. I think they took a few $1,000s at closing, but the rest they just left in the line of credit. So then if they need that money later, there's grandson's college, needs $5,000 6 months from now, they can just take a draw and give it to them, whatever. So it gives them flexibility on how they take the money. And again, I think I mentioned this earlier, you can use this money for anything you want, right? There's no restrictions on how to use it. You can give it to me if you want. No one's done that yet. But I always say you can. No one's taking me up on it. Okay, next scenario. Sander. This one I love. This was such a great use of this loan. Sander, 78 years old, single woman. Home's worth about $240, and she owed $105. And I get this question a lot, so I'll just answer it now. Why does a 78-year-old have a $105,000 mortgage? And I would tell you this happens more than I wish I heard it, and that's because she took money out and gave it to who?
Kids.
Bingo. And they're going to pay it back, right?
Oh,
The 3rd of November. That's right. That's right. They didn't pay it back. So here is Sandra living with a payment of $860 a month on that loan on an income of $1,700 a month. So that doesn't go very far, right?
She's got money left.
So here's what we did. We paid off her loan. She qualified for $125,000. So we paid off the $105,000, and then the other $20,000 we just put in a line of credit. And better than that, we increased her monthly cash flow by $860. We doubled her spendable dollars. Doubled it. That saved her. I mean, it's amazing. And now she has a surprise dishwasher, car, healthy vent, or she wants to take a trip. She still has $20,000 that she can tap into, so she gets to sleep at night. And as long as she can pay her property taxes and her insurance, she can never be foreclosed on.
And this precludes waiving property taxes?
You can't waive property taxes once you put this in place, right? Okay.
Can I say something about that?
Yes.
I had been deferring my property taxes for, it was at least 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it amounted to like $60,000. So that had to be paid off. And now I am responsible for paying my property taxes every year, which is about the same time that my homeowners comes due and my car insurance comes due. Plus I wanted to do some stuff around the house. So I took a lump sum, took care of all of that. I only plan on taking money out maybe 2-3 times a year. And it would be a chunk to pay all of those things that happen to come right around November. So for me, it's been fabulous. I know money's sitting there if I need it for
Right.
something.
Yeah, thanks, Neil, for saying that. And I will tell you this too, you guys, think back to that line of credit that grows at about 5% a year. Depending on where you live, and taxes are not cheap, especially in Multnomah County, but if you, let's say your taxes, yeah, it's
Crazy.
more normal areas, let's say taxes are $4,000 a year, right?
6,500, okay.
Yeah, well,
In Lents.
I get it, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But let's go back to my example.
Okay.
More than it's easier on the map. So if you've got a line of credit, let's say that we do this loan for you and you've got a line of credit of 100 grand. And it's gonna grow at about 5% a year. At the end of the year, you're gonna have 105,000 available. Let's say your taxes are 4 and your insurance is 1. That's 5 grand. You draw out 5 grand, you pay your taxes, you pay your insurance, and your line of credit's still 100 grand. And you can do that every year if you want. Other than the next year, your taxes are gonna be 4,200, but.
I got you.
Then you call your friend and get your insurance lowered. But you get the strategy, you see what I'm saying,
Yeah.
Oh,
right?
that was great.
Buying a home. Did you know you could buy a home with this product? So this is new, relatively. This was introduced in 2009. So now you can use this as the purchase loan for a home. So I do, let's see, I think I've got an example actually. Downsizing. Oh, I just took a picture of my house for the example here. Downsizing. So I do this for a lot of clients that, you know, they raise their family in a home and they live there a long time and it's 2 stories and it's a 10,000 square foot lot with a big yard and trees. It's just too much to take care of. People don't want to go up and down stairs, don't want to, you know, clean gutters anymore, whatever. So people want to downsize. So we can do, so here's an example of how to do that. Sell a big family house, looking for something smaller, don't want to deplete cash from the sale. So keep that in mind as I'm going to go through some numbers real quick. Maybe they don't even qualify for a traditional mortgage anymore. So they would have to pay cash potentially. Or they don't want a monthly payment because maybe they haven't had a monthly payment for a number of years now. Maybe they've had their house paid off. So here's a way we can do that. Let's say they sold their house for 500 grand. You guys probably, anybody in here buy a house for under 60 grand back in the day? I know, crazy. Yeah.
17?
18.5 is the house I grew up in. Found something for $300,000 that they want to buy. So real simply, if they sold their house for 500 and they didn't owe anything, and then they find something for 300, clearly they could just scratch a check for the 300 and keep 200 and go on their way. Or we could do this. Use a reverse mortgage purchase program. They bring in $165,000. We bring in the rest, another $135,000 on a reverse mortgage. They purchase the house just like they normally would, except now they don't have a mortgage payment. And they've kept that other $135,000 in their pocket to do other things with.
And no capital gains.
No. Okay, I mean, so realtors, I don't know, any realtors in the room?
Ex-realtor.
This is, you know, and the flip side of this is around here, let's see, here's the other scenario. Client sells their house, but they had a mortgage or whatever, and they come to a realtor and they say, hey, I got $175,000 cash. Find me something in Portland. Right.
ADU.
Yeah, be your ADU at your house, maybe. Right? Okay, you can't buy anything for $175,000 in Portland. Everybody knows that. You can't go out 20 miles and find something for that. So here's what we do. Maybe again can't qualify, don't want a payment. If we use this program, they bring in 175, and depending on their age, we bring in another 150. Now they can look for a house 325. Okay, well maybe now they've got a chance to buy something somewhere. Maybe not over next door, across the street from you. Right?
Yeah.
But we can use this loan now to help people get into maybe more than they could have afforded before. Okay? And still no mortgage payment to deal with.
Is Bill still alive?
This is kind of for realtors. I'll just skip through that. I think that's about it. So, oh, there's my face. That's all I got, you guys. Here's my last thoughts. It's a reverse mortgage is, if you remember nothing else, it's just a mortgage that allows for deferred repayment. And when you start to dig into the strategies behind that and the ways to use it, it becomes phenomenal. The other thing that I didn't talk about tonight is I get probably 30% of my business from financial planners, CPAs, and attorneys. Because here's what those guys are all doing. They're talking to their clients, retired clients, and they're trying to figure out, okay, how do we take this chunk of money that you saved over the last 40 years of working and now stretch it out long enough? And for most people, they didn't think their taxes were going to be $6,000. They didn't think the cell phone wasn't even invented. Now that's $100 a month just to have a phone, cable TV, medical bills, gas. I mean, it's expensive to live, right? So financial planners now look at this because we've got trillions, literally trillions of dollars tied up in real estate in this country, and this is just one mechanism to help people get access to it and maybe help them stretch out those investment dollars a little bit or cover health expenses or whatever it might be. Yeah.
So when I pass, how long do my kids have to pay off that reverse mortgage?
A year. And here's how that goes. You're supposed to notify the lender that the borrower is no longer living in the house. The lender just wants their money back, right? This whole fallacy that lenders want houses because they can make money is not right. They lose money every time, I guarantee you. So they just want their money, but you have to notify them, and then as long as you keep them informed of what you're doing, listing the house or whatever, they're fine. You can get easily up to a year. Yeah, because believe me, they don't want that house to try to sell.
So did they establish the amount they'll loan you on the real market value of your home?
Yeah, we order an appraisal, full appraisal on every property. Yeah,
So it's based on the real market value?
Yeah, independent appraisal.
Not what's, like my house, my lot, they could put 5 houses on my lot.
Yeah.
And so if I went to sell it, I could sell it to a contractor, builder, developer.
Right.
And make 3 times as much as I could get.
Yeah, that's what we call highest and best use value versus real market value. And we use real market value versus.
Yeah.
You need to live longer than I do. We don't need any more of this tenement housing crap in our neighborhood.
Oh.
Well,
And you're 3 years older than I am, so you're planning on hanging on for at least 27 more years. Well, I don't care how poor or how old you are, but you need to live longer than I do.
I brought,
Don't want any more of this crap in my neighborhood.
I brought just a couple of things.
Out of there.
I only brought 10 of these books.
No.
Brought some of these handouts. You guys can take them or not take them. I also have my business card if anybody wants to grab one of those. I'll just lay these up here.
Thank you.
If you want one, you're welcome to it. And that's it. I'm done.
Okay.